Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we're recording. Yeah, so welcome everybody. Amit, over to you.
All right, thanks very much, Nick. And colleagues, very warm welcome to you. I'm Amit Arora. I'm the Regional Clinical Director and led the Recondition the Nation program in the last over 2 years or so. And so delighted to see that everything is still going on. And with all your help, the program is still active and alive. So, and a very warm welcome to you again. I don't always get to come and meet here with all the wonderful work, but I do regularly get in touch and am aware of all the fantastic stuff that you all do. And part of this is enabled by my various journeys and travels and visits to various hospitals. And it was in that context when about a month ago or so, I was at James Paget Hospital, which is where I am right now. I met some wonderful therapists who had done some great work around reducing deconditioning and have done some costing analysis and length of stay work. So I said, well, good work, and it will be even better when you come and showcase your fantastic stuff. So the team from the therapies at James Paget will be speaking once Sarah has finished her presentation, and I'll hand it back to you, Nick. So brilliant. Thank you very much.
Fabulous. Yeah, we spoke to. I think it's just the enthusiasm we got from the James Paget team was something we just wanted to sort of share with everybody else. So while they're sorting their tech issues out, I'm going to introduce Sarah and Kelly from Humber and North Yorkshire ICB, just to sort of share some of their work that they've been. I heard about this a few months ago, and it's just trying to coordinate diaries and in between sessions and just get you to come along and have a talk to the team about the work that you've been doing. So the floor is yours, Sarah and Kelly. Yeah. You can run whatever presentation you want and share and we can take some questions afterwards as well if anybody wants to.
All right then, thanks ever so much for inviting us. I'll share some slides with you that we've pulled together. Let me do that now, which then means that I probably won't be able to see people, so I'm not very tech savvy. So if anybody wants to shout out at me, please do. So just to introduce myself, my name's Sarah Fiori. I work as principal nurse at North Yorkshire Council, and I'm also head of quality improvement at the Humber and North Yorkshire Health and Care Partnership, the ICB. Essentially, we're part of an integrated team. We cover the whole of North Yorkshire and York at the moment. And we have social care staff that cover the North Yorkshire patch. We have a slightly different approach with North Yorkshire. We're fully integrated with them, but we have an offer out to the York patch as well. And we are a social care team and a nursing team that have an offer out to support adult social care providers. So if anybody's interested in what we do, if you just Google the Humber, North Yorkshire and Partners in Care, we come up. So I've been invited to come along and share with you something that we started back in 2022 with Kelly, and I'll let Kelly introduce herself, so I'm not talking too much. Over to you, Kelly, just to introduce yourself.
Thanks, Sarah. Yeah, my name's Kelly Pemberton. I'm one of the project assistants with the quality and nursing team, and I've been with them for 6 months.
Can everyone see the slides okay? Did I make it bigger? Is that better?
Yes.
Okay. Right, I shall kick off. So what we've come to talk about is our North Yorkshire and York Care Provider Olympics, and we've just recently finished it for this year. It's the 3rd year that we've done it, and we weren't really sure in the beginning how it would be taken. So it was just a coincidental conversation as we were coming out of the pandemic, and I was getting quite giddy about the fact that care homes were opening their doors again, there were people visiting, and potentially we'd get invited again to all the lovely garden parties that they tend to have in the summer, and the barbecues, and get to drink tea and eat cake with residents and staff. It's one of those bonuses that we have in our role, that we network and spend time out there with people. So getting excited about that. And I just said, as an off-the-cuff remark, oh, what if we could do a sports day for everyone? And then the team were like, oh yeah, that'd be really good. But my nursing team always go above and beyond and have to really push the boundaries. So we decided that having one day for everybody across the whole of North Yorkshire and York was probably quite ambitious. And the team came up with an idea that over a 6-week period, what we would do would be to encourage care providers to take part in running their own sport events, their own sports day. We then called it the Olympics, and contribute to the bigger picture. So I'll just move on the slide. So what is it? So we supported providers to host their own Olympic style event over 6 weeks, and in that they would be competing against other providers to be our care provider champions. So Kelly will describe how that works further along in the chat. But essentially, homes are given a list of core events, and we ask them to share their results with us, and then we tabulate that. So of all the providers that have participated, we can then pull together a table and identify winners. And we weren't sure whether people would go for it or not in that first year, but the response was overwhelming. And the aim really was to celebrate the importance of physical activity to health and well-being, to showcase that creative and innovative activities and share best practice between providers. Because very often providers will, particularly in adult social care, work in silos, work in their own bubble, and they don't always feel connected to the wider community that's around them. So this is another opportunity for us to get registered managers, activity coordinators and staff to really connect with other people doing the same thing as them in other settings. We wanted to share resources and those local opportunities for people to get moving, and to highlight the role of personalised care and how activity can be tailored to different abilities and preferences. So this was absolutely about inclusion and accessibility for everybody. And you'll see in the pictures that we share, there were the physical races, if you like, but then there were other events where people who might be bedbound or chairbound got involved in scent and touch type competition. So there was something for everybody. And what we really wanted to do was develop a legacy of activity and health creation across social care. So the 2024 North Yorkshire and York Care Provider Olympics. In 2023, in 22 we had 600 people involved. In 23 last year we had over 800 people involved, and that was from 32 providers. This year we're still trying to tally the numbers because it's got so big. Not everybody shared back with us the participant numbers. We know that there were 45 providers who returned scores and engaged fully with us, but there were other homes and other settings that said, we're going to do something and we'll get back to you and tell you what we did, but they never have. But actually that's all right, because the idea is to get people engaged and feeling part of that community. So we've probably got a lot more participants this year, and participants as well have been, you'll see in some of the pictures that we've got, they're not just about staff and the people that they support. There's links there with local schools. So we had one care home who held a sports day at their home, and then they went and visited the school and participated in the children's sports day as well. We've got, really family events. So it's a really multi-generational feel-good events usually. Well, always. So everybody across the area, real diverse area, got involved and really celebrated it and had fun. And you can see there's one home in the one assisted living setting that's in the middle of the picture, and they were really pushing the limits to try and be the best and win. They actually took their Olympics event to the swimming pool as well, which was just fab to see that competition and that engagement. So we've had lots of really positive feedback. We're still collating it, and people have really, really enjoyed it. And it hasn't been just the event on the day either, but it's actually stimulated activity and engagement for maybe a week beforehand. So residents have made their own Olympic torches. They've made decorations and posters. They've had baking sessions in preparation for people coming. And we also like to really celebrate how it the cross-cutting themes with other improvement work that we do. So we do a lot of work around hydration and nutrition, and a lot of the homes would have their hydration stations and their cocktail stations on show, and really linked in all those health promotion messages that we work with them on. So it came together. And ultimately, as a nurse that's leading a team, I want to make sure that my team have got some joy in work, because I'm sure everybody on the call, it will resonate with you. We have some really tough times, and we do go into providers that are failing, and we see things that are really quite distressing at times. So this gives us an angle in our work where it's really positive. We get to know a lot of the residents. So there was a lot of resident stories that come out of this where, we've got a lady who said, I used to be an Olympic swimmer. Somebody else, I swam the channel. Somebody else was a motorbike speed champion. And all these resident stories come out, and you get to know people, and they can reminisce, and they'll share photographs. So it's a really, really valuable opportunity. So I'll hand over to Kelly, who will talk you through this year's champions.
Thank you very much, Sarah. So this year, our 2024 champions, older adults category is Kirkwood Hall. They're based in Leyburn. They actually won it last year as well. So congratulations to them. And then Sherbert House, young adults and LD champions. Now they've actually won it 3 years running. Every year that we've done it, they have won. And I'm actually going to visit them this afternoon to drop off their trophy and medals. So
Kelly, is it worth mentioning the lady that won't take her medals off, who sits with 2 medals round her neck? So she'll be getting a 3rd one this afternoon. She refuses to take her medals off.
Yes, I'm looking forward to meeting her and giving her a 3rd medal. So I'll talk a bit about how we come to getting our champions and what we do with the scoring as well, like Sarah mentioned before. There's 8 core events that we do across the board. Providers can do the 8 events. They don't have to. They can do their own, or they can choose to do a bit of both. And as soon as we get the scores in, I tally everything up against the points and things, and then work out who's the winner overall after doing all the tallying up. Sarah, just go back to that last one for us, please.
Sorry.
You're all right. Thank you. So we've got a home called Treetops. Now they are a dementia home, and they worked really hard with the residents to create a day that was fun for them, activities that they could join in. They brought in family, grandchildren, absolutely everybody. Sal, one of our colleagues, actually went across to do their event with them. As you can see, she's running the egg and spoon race in the bottom corner picture. And they sent over a lovely email just personally thanking Sal for joining in and visiting him and working with them on the day. It was fantastic. Next one, please.
It's probably worth mentioning, Kelly, as well, that you got the City York Football Club involved as well.
Oh, yes. Yeah, they're on one of the other photos. Yeah, so I emailed York City just to try and get them involved, to get some external people involved. And York City Football Club are well into not just playing football and things like that. They like to look after the kids and everybody else, and they actually are working with the asylum seekers in York. They're working with lots of kids doing training and after extracurricular activities, and they were well up for coming across. So we went to one of the homes in York, and 2 of the lads came across, Rory and Billy. The residents didn't actually know who they were because they are very young, but there was a grandson there of one of the residents who was starstruck, and he was very, very happy to see the boys. And they just did a bit of dancing with the residents, which was fun, and they all had a great time. Thank you. So here's just a list of all the providers that we know that took place. One provider actually had 7 teams, so they were very, very engaged and very competitive. There were some other teams, like Sarah mentioned, that did compete in it, but they haven't submitted anything. So they did their own thing, which is absolutely fine. We encourage them to do that. Thank you. Next one. Thank you very much. Do you want to talk about this, Sarah?
All right. This is just a nod really to the fact that after the second event, we were really overwhelmed by the absolute, you could call it a social movement that we had across North Yorkshire and York. If anybody knows our geography, it's huge. And it was just really quite impressive how care staff had such an appetite to do this. And, you know, very often working with different providers, people will use the excuse that they're too busy, they're burnt out, they've not got enough staff. Actually, working in the care sector, this is a workforce that does struggle to recruit. It's a transient workforce by nature, and yet these people went above and beyond to really do what they were doing with the residents. So we submitted an entry into Nursing Times Awards, and we became a finalist in 2023. And I put this here not to blow our trumpet, but to recognise that effort and the appetite, because all this work has been done by our care providers, by the staff, by the residents, by everybody that got involved. So it's not something as a feather in our cap, but it's recognising that contribution and how marvellous our social care colleagues are, and how brilliant they've been. And the legacy continues. Like I say, they're asking for a Winter Olympics, and we've only just finished the summer. We've tried to keep it as a summer event, and we certainly timed it this year to coincide with the Olympics. We did try to twin up with some care homes in France, but they didn't have the same enthusiasm. But there are other people that we've networked with in the country, particularly this week. We're looking at a county-wide competition with Calderdale. They're really interested in getting engaged in this, and we've also got colleagues up in Scotland as well that have been involved and inspired to do stuff in their own area. So that's just a nod really to celebrate our care colleagues, and we were privileged to feel that we could represent them and get noted at Nursing Times. Hand over to you.
Thank you. Yeah, so obviously the initiative is to keep on moving, and the next steps that we want to do, like Sarah mentioned, is to collaborate with other providers. Calderdale are very excited about the Olympics, and it might look like that we could do a wider Olympics next year. So it's something for me to certainly work on in the new year, and think of different ways that we can do that to be able to collaborate with other providers as well. So if anybody does want to join in or wants some more information, please do get in touch. I'll put a link in the chat as well to our webpage, which will detail all of the previous Olympics that we've done and any bulletins and stuff that you can all have a look at as well. And then we've got the awards ceremony, which is on the 8th of November, 2 o'clock on Teams. Again, if anybody would like to join it just to have a look at what we've done and how the providers are going, please do drop us a message as well.
And that's it. 2025, here we come after Christmas.
Yes.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kelly. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you.
It's just really great to hit so many key points. I think as I was sort of picking up while I'm filling the space at the moment. If anyone wants to pop their hand up or pop anything in the chat, please do so. Lots of applause around the room. Really, just a really great, another great piece of work. And I think the care home sector is something that the word that this group and the reconditioning games beforehand, it was hospital based predominantly. We weren't really getting a lot of traction from the care home sector. There was some, but it was smaller, and we really wanted to see where we could go with that work. And what you've shown there is there's really tapping into all the principles that makes this meaningful for people. That joy in work is so important. The bringing a bit of enthusiasm back. I think about we all want to be able to do the thing that we come into this work for. And if we don't feel we can do that, that's going to have an impact on our own psychological well-being. And so being able to contribute and do things which bring that joy in work, it has a massive impact on the stress, burnout levels, just those feeling of I'm actually achieving something here.
I think it also busts a lot of myths and legends that people will have. So I'm an NHS registered nurse, NHS through and through, and like many people who've done their nurse training or a clinical, we tend to train within the NHS, so our exposure to other settings, other care settings, such as social care, might actually be quite limited. And there's a lot of assumptions I think we make in the NHS about social care, what it looks like, and what the skill set and expertise is within it. And actually, there's quite, particularly when it gets to winter pressures and a lot of the discharge issues, it becomes very transactional. And I think this piece of work, if we can share it and discuss it, really busts those myths and legends about social care being a terrible place to be. Like, there's young people that are being supported to absolutely maximise their enjoyment in life, their contribution. There's older people that are living the best lives. And, this myth that people go into care and within a year that they've probably died. Gosh, we've got people 104, 105 that are absolutely bob on. And Winnie from Whitby, we gave her a special trophy last year. She's 104 and participated in every event. So I think it's a real positive portrayal of the sector as well, and how care staff actually are knowledgeable and do want to do the best. And I'm really passionate about sharing that message as well.
Yeah, brilliant. Yeah, so Claire just popped up, so I'm going to go straight to Claire.
Hello. What brilliant work, and how lovely to spend your day doing some form of Olympic Games with the residents. Oh, it just would be amazing. It's like, I feel my heart getting bigger just at the thought of thinking of the enjoyment that they would have had. However, that's not my question. My question is surrounding consent and your patients that obviously don't have the cognitive ability to be able to do so. Was that assumed consent? Was it consent from family members? How did you man that, just out of curiosity?
Do you mean for photographs, or do you mean for actually getting involved in activities?
Both.
Right.
Both.
So obviously we've got policies and procedures around the sharing of photographs. So everybody that we've taken pictures of, each home manager has absolutely followed policy, and we've got consent for sharing those images. In terms of the activities, it's entirely up to the individual, just as it would be with anything in the home. So nobody was forced into it. There were areas in the home that if people didn't want to get involved, or maybe it was a bit of a trigger, that they had quiet areas and they would do other activities. But we didn't have any issues reported to us at all. And some people were happy to sit and watch and enjoy it, and others wanted to, but it was absolutely around their own volition to get involved. And certainly we commsed out an awful lot. So we would do a lot of comms out, engaging with people, say, come and get involved, come and get involved. So it was up to them to make a decision to get involved with it. And then every week we would do, well, I say we, Kelly pulled together an Olympic bulletin. So alongside our usual provider bulletin, this was a specific one that was updating people, and we still had people registering to get involved with those right up until the last week, because some of this is weather dependent as well, isn't it, in England? But it was amazing how many of them were still sat outside. They went to big parks in the middle of York. One of the younger mental health units, they went out to Roundtree's Park in York and held their event there. And there were other people by the coast who'd gone to Crazy Golf and done things there. So people fitted it in as well, because they saw it as something that they might hook onto, or they might make it as a focus of their event for the summer. But it was absolutely, it's up for, we'll do the comms out, we'll support it and lead it, but it was absolutely their decision and their work to do. Yeah.
Brilliant, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Brilliant. Yeah. So I think we're going to go to the James Paget team first, but I think a few more points to sort of pick up on. Again, any more questions for the guys, pop up in the chat. You got their contact details. I think do get in touch. Ask how they make have some of the biggest. The question I get asked the most is about how do we just get started on something, and it's so difficult just to get started on something. You may not work in the care home sector yourself, but as Claire said, your heart may be filled with that enthusiasm now that hearing from Sarah and Kelly, We've all got some sports clubs around us somewhere. You know, approach your sports clubs. You know, they all do community work. They all want to be actively involved in the community. I used to live in York, so I know the football club as well. So there's definitely an enthusiasm there, but most football clubs or rugby clubs or sports clubs want to be involved in the local community as well. So reach out there. But this is another great way to take the message forward. It's building on the principles we've talked about. It's another really great example that we can learn from. But yeah, please do get in touch with Sarah and Kelly if you want a bit more information, and maybe after the winter games you can come back and tell us all about the winter games as well.
I've not got the energy for winter games, and I can't bear the thought of older people or frail people sitting on a sledge and being pushed down a hill. So I think we'll wait till it becomes warmer again and revisit it in the lush green fields. Lovely. And things.
Good shout. Thank you. Right, I think James Paget have got over their tech issues. So I know we're gonna hear some great work from them as well. Amit, Dr. Aurora has told me all about them, and I connected with a couple of their colleagues as well. So if you're ready and you're able to lead us through your work, whoever's on the call from James Paget.
Hi,
there we go.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
All right. My name is Okechukwu. I'm a physiotherapist from James Paget. I'm going to make this presentation with some of my colleagues, so I'll give them the opportunity to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Joanna. I'm therapy assistant practitioner. Hi, I'm Becky. I'm one of the OTs.
All right. Can you see the screen?
We can.
All right. So what we're going to talk about today is occupational therapy and physiotherapy, how they can improve patients' functional ability, prevent deconditioning, and then reduce length of stay. This presentation is being made by the Acute Medicine Therapy team in James Paget. Nearly 350 patients spend more than 3 weeks in acute hospital each year, according to NHS 2022. And out of this, within these 3 weeks, about 65% of them will have their mobility decline. And this decline starts even within 1 week of coming into hospital. About 10% of their muscle strength is lost within 1 week. Deconditioning usually in hospital will lead to them losing their functional abilities, which means there's going to be an increased need for equipment and care on discharge, which also means that they are going to stay longer in hospital because they will need equipment. We need to do access visits, and we need to arrange for package of care, or maybe they will need to wait for community bed. Because of this, Acute Medicine Therapy team in James Paget developed a program called Step Up Program, and we've been on this program for the last 1 year. So what usually happens is that we receive referrals for patients who are unable to maintain or improve their functional independence with the assistance of the nursing staff or the ward staff, as the case may be. Most of the referrals we get are elderly patients who have long-term conditions, and some of them got cognitive difficulties due to acute delirium or history of dementia. The goal of the program, Step Up, was to prevent deconditioning, improve or maintain functional independence in readiness for discharge once the patients are right for discharge, and thereby will reduce the length of stay in hospital. So Step Up program, what we do in Step Up program is basically when we receive these referrals, we assess the patient just like the way we assess every other patient. And then after our assessments, we give them individualized exercise program or activities, depending on what they're able to do or what they are not able to do. And these exercise programs could be strengthening exercises, it could be conditioning, it could be aerobics or functional activities. So what we do with the exercises is that we try to spend a little bit more time with them to do these exercises with them. And then we also give them some exercises to do on their own. Also, their family members could help them when they are around, or the ward staff can also help them do these exercises. And by the next time we go to visit them, we'll look at the exercises they've done. We'll see if we need to change it to something different. And aside exercises also, we also try to do mobility/transfer training with them so we can get them ready to be on their feet. On the aerobics, we mentioned about step counts. One of the core things we do in step up, aside the routine exercises, that we do step counts. And step counts, you can do this while you're on bed. For instance, someone who doesn't have enough strength to move their legs can do step counts by just moving their upper limbs and then counting how many times they've done it. You can also do this by sitting down on the chair, or maybe when they are standing to frame or steady, they can march on the spot and then count. This serves as an incentive to help them to keep track of what they have done and see if they are making progress. When we are done with the exercises, we've tried to extract data that we can analyze to see if we've made progress. And the key things we tried to look at was, we looked at 2 outcome measures. The first one is early mobility score, where we try to get what their EMS is before they come into hospital and what it is at the point of discharge. And then secondly, we try to look at the mobility aid they had, or transfer aid as the case may be, they had before coming into hospital, what it is at the point where we started seeing them, and what it is at the point when they are discharged from hospital. For the equipment or the transfer aids, we try to categorize them to help us to be able to score them. For instance, 1, according to our own categorization, means bed care, 2 is hoist, and then 3 is steady, and goes on to 13. 13 means they are independent. So we try to, after we're giving them these exercises, we try to collate this data, and then over time, we've tried to analyze the data to see if we've made progress or not. I'm going to ask my colleague to carry on from here.
Hello, I'm Joanna again. Just to quote what Dr. Amit Arora had mentioned in the NHS blog in 2023, that is what we do with the step up as well. We aim not just to prevent deconditioning, but also to progress, give our patients the opportunity to progress their mobility through reconditioning exercises whilst they are in hospital. And the exercises for the elderly were based on these 4 models of endurance, flexibility, balance, and strength. And we identify what our patients struggle with, and we practice personalized exercise program whilst advising them to follow with the bed and chair exercises whilst we are not around. Coming to the next slide. Right, so the results of what we do is reflected in this case study. And as you can see on the left side, we've got the hospital length of stay. So we're talking about a 70-year-old male who was admitted with a fall and pubic rami fracture, and he was also on an ongoing alcohol detox. To also keep in mind is he is a patient who had learning disabilities. So to talk about the length of stay, he was admitted on the 8th. He was made right to discharge on the 15th, and he was accepted into beds with care meeting for a rehab, and he was discharged on the 10th. And just to bear in mind that the gap between his talk sent for rehab and his discharge duration was also sort of affected by his behavioral logs that impacted his acceptance into the rehab. But whilst he was in the hospital, this is what we did with the step up and the initial assessment on the 9th following his admission. He was established as a SARA study +2 for transfers. The talk was sent for rehab, and we're just talking about the exercise input. When we talk about the exercise, it was personalized exercise programs that we had with the patient. And this is also to highlight that this was just 3 exercises 3 exercise sessions that we focused throughout the week. And as you can see, with just those 3 exercise inputs, the patient gradually and rapidly increased with his mobility and functional ability. As you can see, he went to transferring with frame, and he was independent with his bed transfers. And the 3rd stage, as you can see, he was just rapidly moving forward with his distance to frame +1. And finally, we had a step assessment, which was essential because we were aiming for discharge home. However, eventually he was accepted into a community rehab, which was decided by the discharge team. What we'd like to highlight from this is 2 to 3 sessions of exercises per week does rapidly progress the patient mobility. And progressing patients' mobility also saved on fundings on discharge, that is through equipments and reducing the care needs, which directly and indirectly affects their length of stay. We also see these results. Seeing these results also gave us a massive job satisfaction and happiness in what we are doing. However, what we'd like to highlight is the challenge that we face as a team extremely is when it comes to providing this quality time with the patient is affected through staffing levels and the increased pressure with caseloads. And Becky will be able to share on the insights of the data.
So as a therapy team, we cover 5 medical wards, and in the months of August and September, we had 437 patients referred to us, but only 115 patients were started and completed their Step Up programme. So as a rule, all patients should be offered the Step Up programme, and then it should be documented in the notes as to why they're not on the programme. So for patients that could be fast track discharge, or for patients that have just declined. And then on the first therapy assessment, they will have their elderly mobility score completed, and then on discharge, they'll have it completed as well. Patients can score the same on the EMS if they're a double assist, even if they went from being a SARA Steady +2 to a frame +2, because it goes on the level of sort of care needs that they have at the time, and not so much about the equipment that they need at the time. So the mobility from therapy input to discharge, 52 people progressed, 57 people stayed the same, and 6 people got worse. And then the EMS score from therapy to discharge, 49 people progressed, 60 people stayed the same, and 6 people got worse. So this graph will have a reduced amount of data, only because we've used patients who were using mobility aids and not the ones that were furniture walkers or independent. So out of these, 6 patients came in as bed care and 7 left as bed care. 5 came in as a hoist and 2 were discharged as a hoist. 17 patients needed the SARA Steady and 8 left with the SARA Steady. 2 needed a ROS return on admission and 0 left with a ROS. 41 patients came in using a frame, 51 patients left using a frame, 0 patients come in using a stick, and 1 patient left using a stick. And it has been noted that there was an increase in patients being discharged with a frame. However, these were the patients that, if they didn't progress off the bigger bits of equipment, it would have cost more money in care and equipment needs. So the minimum saving we worked out in 2 months was £14,363. And then the limitations were patients were not well enough for therapy on admission or at the time of referral. There were late referrals, and sometimes we don't receive the referrals, so the patients are already right to discharge. Patients have already deconditioned at the time of the referral because of a prolonged stay in bed, fluctuating caseload, fluctuating staffing levels, and prioritising the fast track patients. So from pre-admission mobility to discharge, 6 patients progressed, 66 patients stayed the same, and 43 patients due to this got worse. So our recommendations as a therapy team are additional therapy staffing on medical wards. The ability to provide the positive patient intervention is dependent on therapy staffing and patient engagement. Earlier identification and input from therapists can benefit the patient and the trust. Currently, we don't always have the staffing levels to see patients before they are right to discharge, and we need to consider how ward staff can better triage patients who do not need therapy input to allow more capacity for therapies to focus on Step Up. So this should then reduce the amount of inappropriate referrals we receive, but we as a team, we do also capture the data for any patients who are referred to us inappropriately. I think that's the end of the presentation. Any questions?
Brilliant. Yeah. So yeah, anybody got any questions for the team? Again, there's some more applause there. Pop your hands up or pop your message in the chat. Amy has asked. I don't know, Amy, do you want to come and ask the question yourself?
Hello, what tech is got me back on? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, there we go. I'll pop myself on there. Amazing work, guys. Really inspiring, and you can just see the results there, can't you? So far in the work that I've been looking at with regards to deconditioning, I'm sort of measuring on the basis of ensuring that people at least being discharged at their baseline, but to see improvements, better than their initial baseline is just amazing. Have you observed in the areas that you've undertaken those interventions, have you seen any data around length of stay?
Sorry, can you come again?
Oh, did you hear me? Sorry.
Yeah, what did you say, please?
Yeah, so in the ward areas that you've been doing these interventions, have you observed a difference in length of stay on the medical wards?
Yeah, unfortunately, length of stay is not completely dependent on therapy input alone.
Yeah.
We've seen the difference, but we can't say if it's just based on what we've done, because there are a lot of factors that could affect their length of stay. But when you look at what we've done, we can say categorically that at least because we progress them, they don't need equipment, which means they don't have to wait to stay and get that. They don't need to wait to get care. We've sorted that out. But in general terms, we can't say if the length of stay has totally been reduced. But for the people who've seen from the therapy aspect, we are not delaying anyone because we've been able to progress them, thereby making sure they will not need equipment or care needs, as the case may be.
Thank you.
Thank you. Deb? You're on mute. Deb.
Apologies. Brilliant work that you're all doing, and like Amy just said, to see that improvement in patients, not just maintaining that level of mobility is really impressive. I suppose it's building on a bit what Amy said. I was just wondering whether you saw any data regarding discharge pathway. So, for example, have you reduced your number of pathway 2 discharges, managed to convert them to pathway 1? Are you seeing that patients who've been involved in your rehab program discharge with the same level of care on discharge? Those kind of things. I just wondered whether you'd seen any improvements in that aspect.
At the moment, the focus of the program is for us. We basically looked at two things. We looked at the equipment they're using to see if we've been able to help improve them and if they're going to need less equipment and then without needing package of care. Maybe if we got the support with staffing and all that, if we go into the next phase of the program, maybe we might look into some of this. But at the moment, our program hasn't covered that scope because we don't really have the staff strength to be able to get into that at the moment.
Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you. I think one of the things that I was curious about when I spoke to Joanna and Dr. Aurora was the approach that you're taking, in that really trying to understand some of the questions that you're asking yourselves, but also the questions that Amy and Deb have asked as well. And it was something we talk about a lot in this group, and I get asked a lot about, what's from those who want to see some hard data around the impact of reconditioning activities and the impact on deconditioning. What I picked up was at least an attempt to try and understand that a bit more quantitatively, rather than what we often will pick up on in a lot of qualitative data in terms of this work. And I think what's really helpful in moving this work forward and the messaging around deconditioning and reconditioning is trying to get a few examples of some real hard facts around it. So that's why I've just really enjoyed hearing about how you're trying to understand the work a bit more in terms of what's the impact. And I think the thing that I picked up on was we know delays happen. We understand that's often out of our control. What you demonstrated there is that there's an opportunity within those delays to create some value-adding opportunities for people while they are waiting by engaging in that exercise. Whereas what we sometimes find is that patients are languishing in those delays and obviously deconditioning while they're waiting for the next thing to happen. So that more proactive engagement in using that time to actively engage with people, I thought that was really interesting. And then you've demonstrated the impact of that by the particularly the case study that you showed that Joanna was talking about. You know, that one case study that, you know, you've seen an improvement in the condition of the person through that. You know, you've not even maintained a level of condition, you've improved the condition, you know, as Deb and Abel were related to. So that's why I felt was really helpful to come back to this group to show people this sort of stuff can be done, and this is an area that we, you know, as a collective group, you know, this network, I think we have opportunities here to sort of dig a little bit deeper into this to understand what are some of the. I wanted to, you know, helpfully you've provided an opportunity to sort of give an example of how you're applying some of that more quantitative element to this work. In terms of the kind of next steps, you know, there's a staffing element, I guess, to it. What do you feel like you're gaining traction with this, or is it does you feel like, you know, you're still trying to, you know, promote the work? Where do you feel you're at in terms of the step up program itself in JPOH?
I think at this point we've seen that step up is working. What we need next is probably support to see that we're able to sustain it. Because I mean, within the last 1 year, I think maybe we've done well. We're going to require a lot of support to be able to continue with this. Because if you look at the stats that we gave initially, we had 437 patients referred to us within 2 months, and we could only complete step up for 115, which is probably maybe a quarter. So that shows that if we've got more support and we get these referrals done on time, we should be able to do a lot better. So I think at this point, we've seen that step up is working. What we need next is support to be able to move to the next step. That's what I would say.
Okay. Well, I know so Dr. Aurora is with you. So I'll make sure that, you know, he comes back to see you. You tap into that support as well, because, you know, he's a massive advocate for this work, and, you know, he almost certainly can help you promote that message as well if you feel you need them. My other colleagues, Lucy as well, is with you. So lean on some of my colleagues as well, you know, to help amplify some of those messages. But thank you so much for bearing with the technology today as well, and you know, share that work. I'm so grateful you did, because I think it was really valuable to be able to share that with the group and those who will catch up on the recording as well. Just another example of how some of this work can be measured in different ways. So thank you for that. Cheers.
Thank you.
Just to wrap up then, folks, I'm going to post something in the chat. I sent out an email from me about asking for your thoughts on this meeting and into the new year. I said that I'd review it in terms of this was for like 6 months. We'll run it on a Thursday lunchtime. I unfortunately now can't do a Thursday anymore. So I'm asking the group really about how what your thoughts are in terms of days of the week and time of the day, when you think is this the best day of the week? Is it best time of the day? So I've created a little mini poll using Mentimeter. I sent out an email, but I also put the link in the chat there as well. Just want to get your feedback. Often this is like, well, you know, it could be any time, and we'll join when we can, and that's always been the ethos, is that join when you can, and there probably isn't the best time. I'm just probably looking at when's not the worst time to try and do something. I recognise most of your work. The mornings are difficult, so if it means sort of later on in the afternoon, or if this time is the right, then please let me know. But the link in the chat should be quite easy to access. Only other thing for me is that November meeting is full, so we've got a full house in terms of 3 speakers for the hour, so that's great. We haven't got anybody yet for the December meeting, so put the shout out again if anybody wants to share their work. It doesn't matter if you've spoken before. Often people will say this is not about us promoting ourselves, but actually, you know, it is about promoting yourself, because your work that you're doing helps other people as well. So please don't feel shy or timid about sharing some of the work that you are doing. So we've got some gaps in December, so please let me know if you want to slot on the December meeting. But if we find ourselves, I'll reflect on this, if we find ourselves in a situation where don't have a full house of speakers or we have some gaps, what I might start to do is just open up the floor in terms of more of a sort of community of practice conversation. So if you've got any questions you want to ask, or you just got this thing you want to put like the kind of thing we see on the WhatsApp group, maybe somebody puts a question out there, and what I might do is start to use some of these meetings more in a sort of community of practice, action learning set type of approach, where if we have the time and you've got a question you want to ask the group in terms of the wisdom of the crowd, please use the meeting for that purpose as well, so it doesn't all feel like it's just talk and talk. We'll test that approach maybe into the new year as well, see if we can see if that's a kind of helpful approach for you as you picking up different opportunities, or just advice back from people who are doing similar kind of work to you. Thank you everybody again for joining today. Another really great attendance in difficult times as well, as we head into well, it's always winter, and I've just it's just more winter than usual. So thank you for joining where you can. Luciano.
Hi Nick, quick question. What day is the meeting in December?
Oh, let me just quickly check my diary and I'll tell you. No, I'll quickly tell you. Off the top of my head, I can never remember. It's 19th of December, 1 o'clock.
Brilliant. I will email you separately then. Thank you.
No worries. Thank you, everybody. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you next month.